What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Drone Camps channel. Today we're going to check out something new from Geprc. They've released another quad that I'm having a hard time finding a lot of faults in. We're going to talk about this and give a no hype review, a total honest opinion about the new Mark 5. It is the predecessor to the Mark 4, which has been around for several years and been super popular. It's primarily a freestyle drone for 4S and 6S configurations. It is a squashed X on here. It does have new motors from Geprc. These are 2107.5 and they're 1960 kV. So under 2000 kV, it gives a nice power to it, but they're actually a little smaller than what I've seen them use on freestyle quads in the past. So I feel like what we get here is a little bit more efficient motor to power ratio as far as the draw on the battery as well. So less amp draw equals more flight time, which is great. So this quad comes in, like I said, a 4S and a 6S configuration at the same price at $350 for the analog version, and then close to $500 to $450 for the HD version. Now I am flying the HD version today. I will show you the tune on here. We'll do some mild freestyle, we'll do some power loops, and we'll do some sort of nice smooth cinema flying. And I'm going to show you the camera on board. I'm not going to show you GoPro footage because that would be kind of cheating and it wouldn't show you the tune on the quad. I'm not going to use any smoothing or hyper smooth or anything like that. GoPro Hero 10. We're just going to see pure quad footage today, and you can see what's really going on with this quad if you want to buy it. I think that's super important. So we're not hiding anything in the tune here today. So let's go ahead and fire it up with today's flight, and we'll come back in the studio right here on the bench, and we'll talk about the Mark 5 and give you my honest opinion, kind of overview of what Geprc has changed on this version of the new Mark 5. Let's go ahead and do some flying. Okay guys, let's go ahead and jump right into the flight test of the Mark 5. This is the FPV flight test. We're going to do some freestyle, cinema, and just some general cruising around on this 6S 1050 milliamp battery that we're flying today. And right away I just want you to see how well this quad tracks, and then later on when we do some freestyle you're going to see how the quad handles some heavy quick rotations, and if it has any vibrations in the camera you'll see it there, because what you're seeing today, you're seeing full just 100% DVR. And I just slipped through the trees right there without hitting that tree, thank God. A lot of water out today. And this again is recorded straight to the DJI goggles, so you're not seeing like the onboard DVR here. You can also record 1080p onboard DVR, which is fantastic. You won't have any of that bit mapped kind of blurring that happens when you go behind trees with the DJI system with the onboard DVR. So it's kind of the benefit of having the onboard DVR, which is nice. Honestly, that way you probably don't even really have to use a GoPro if you're just uploading to like Facebook and things like that to share with people. If you're really into cinema, you can get the GoPro Hero 10 and fly on this all day. You can also use the Caddx Peanut, the DK GoPro, and pretty much any other camera out there that's going to be shooting 4K to 5K. The Insta360s, the 1R 360 cam would look super cool on this one. We'll show the whole quad's body. But here we're just cruising, and I'm relying on that TBS crossfire that I have on this quad to hopefully not fail safe. And honestly, I haven't had a fail safe on me. And this is where I would absolutely fail safe with an XM Plus style Tyrannus receiver. Down this road right here is notorious for fail safe. I don't know how many times I've had to go jump a barbed wire fence to get down that road and pick up a quad that fail-safed right to the ground. And fail-safe, if you don't know it, it just means when you lose communication, the quad drops to the ground. And that's the standard safety setup for beta flight if you're brand new to beta flight. So welcome to the sport of FPV. And again, it tracks really well. You can get right down into the trees like that. You can fly along fence lines, and I was having fun just hopping from one side of the fence to the other, as you'll see here a little bit further in this flight test. But very, very nice and predictable flight lines. Now, one thing you want to notice on the goggles DVR is that it does show the props. You can just barely see those kind of grayed out props on the left and right of the screen. And that's not a huge deal for me. It's not a deal breaker, but that's going to show up. I believe it's going to show up in your DVR. I'm going to have to double check that for you guys to see if that shows up in the DJI DVR. And if you don't like props in view, by all means, just put a GoPro or another action camera on top. You will not see the props in view because of the camera tilt. Very nice. So much water out there today, no room for mistakes. The grass is wet. If I go down in the grass today, I'm gonna have a problem. And sometimes you can crash in the grass and get away with it without shorting something out. I was supposed to fly with Diego today during this flight test, and he put his new 7-inch that he just built down on the ground, fired it up, and it blew up the flight controller. It could have been the moisture, the water, it could have been some soldering, we don't know yet. But we're gonna go for a power loop here. And kind of late on that one. So I'm gonna turn around and I'm just gonna try that again, guys. Let's just go back for another power loop and let me try to get a nice solid line this time. You can do any freestyle moves you want with this quad. And I was a little far out that time, but you know, there's water on the ground and better be safe than sorry. Now let's just try a little kind of freestyle maneuver around this tree. Let's throw a spin in there and we'll kind of dip back under the tree with speed. Super nice. Very, very nice handling on this quad, and the tune is looking good. So I didn't see a ton of vibration, even on the hardest power loops and hardest maneuvers. You can do yaw snaps with this quad too, and it's not gonna kind of vibrate really hard on those hard turns. And Geprc again is just proving that they can continue to deliver us products in 2022 that are just going to be solid out of the box. If you want to buy something that's just solid out of the box and not have problems, buy something from Geprc. I don't care which one it is. Let me know which one you bought in the comments down below, and let me know if you enjoy it, if it broke or whatever. But I think this one's a nice kind of streamlined, better flight time, better motors on this one. They're not so big. 2306 are kind of large now, and I'm loving this one. Let's go back to the studio, check it out. All right, guys, welcome back from the flight test. I gotta say that Geprc, you know, I've said it a million times. Every time I get something from that company, it seems like I go and I fly it, and I don't have any problems. So that says something about Geprc as a company. As far as their quality control is concerned, like, these guys are really flawless at sending a product that's already boxed up for retail, a retail ready version, not a prototype. Most of the time these companies send me prototypes before they've actually got a lot of their retail ready versions ready for you guys. Geprc doesn't do that. So they give me the full retail ready version. This one, as it sits with the DJI HD system on board, the old school original air module back here, I don't know how they have these still available, but apparently they do. It has an SD card slot in the side, and it has the original DJI camera up front, which most of FPV pilots prefer. This is a really nice camera. So that one's $486. That's PNP. If you add Crossfire to it, it's going to get you up to like $500. RXSR, $504. And you can also do Geprc's new ELRS receiver on there. Geprc now makes an ELRS receiver. I'll try to find a link and put down to that below. So if you want a cheaper version of long range type of receiver on board, try out some ELRS. It's actually getting really easy to bind those up now with all these different modules out there that are coming out for radios. So the analog version, that one's coming in at like $349. 4S or 6S, same price. It doesn't matter which one you get, same price. For that one, you know, you can run a 6S battery, and you can get 5 minutes flight time out of something like a 1050. That's my original Freestyle battery. If I want kind of lighter weight battery on there, if you're doing cinema and long range type of flying, I would suggest running something like a 6S 1400 milliamp battery on this one. Because still, even with such a large 6S battery, you're probably going to get like 8 to 10 minutes flight time if you're just cruising. Now, what I also like about being able to have multiple size batteries on here is that you can fly it with a GoPro, you know, something like a decased GoPro or an Insta360 Go 2. You have various mount options that come in the box. I got the smaller decased mount. You can take this one off and you can put a full-size GoPro mount on here, which they also include. So you can film with your DJI action camera, the GoPro, decased GoPro, or the micro-size camera. It's pretty cool. They also have bolts on the top of the mount that are oversized on the very top right here, so that the TPU, if it gets pulled, it doesn't rip out quite as easily. Years past, they were using standard size bolts, like just a regular M3 like this. It doesn't have a wide pan head on it. It's just a standard M3 bolt. And a lot of times TPU camera mounts were getting pulled off the quad. So manufacturers are listening to us. I mentioned about this particular detail probably like 6 months ago. One of the companies did it, and now it seems like a lot of the manufacturers kind of catching on to that. So that's nice to have a wider, kind of a washer included into that camera mount bolt. So that's really nice. Aside from the HD version, the analog version has an F722 HD flight controller on there as well. So if you want to upgrade later to HD, you can do that. 50 amp ESCs on this baby. We got 2107.5 motors and 1960 kV version for the 6S version. And for the 4S version, we have 2450, which is very standard race motor or freestyle. We also have Gym Fan freestyle props on here, and typically I had been sent Geprc RC version props, but these are running really nice. They have a kind of a medium cord here and a nice tapered tip, so it's really smooth on takeoff. And I got to say, the tune on this one, as far as my HD goes, I'm sure it's the same numbers in the PIDs on this particular quad and the analog one. It's really smooth, really nice. I saw the most mild vibrations on the most extreme maneuvers, so that's really good news. But it is, again, a squashed X, and I wanted to tell you guys the VTX on the analog version has IRC tramp protocol on there for smart audio, and it also has up to 600 milliamp. It's changeable, and actually that goes, it looks like they have pit mode on that as well, and 40 channels. And it also has a microphone if you want to record your quad's motor noise. Some guys like to do that. On the analog version, they also have Cadex Ratel 2, which is 1200 TVL. Really nice Starlight style FPV camera. This one is not a Starlight, so this is your standard. If you want a DJI Starlight camera, you can also get the Cadex Polar. The Cadex Polar sees great in low light conditions, so like if you're flying around nighttime or dusk, it's going to appear like daytime almost. I love the Starlight cameras, and it's cool to see that there is a DJI version of a Starlight camera out now, but now without the receiver as this one sits, if analog version, $349, and almost $500 for the HD version. But you know, it's kind of like the standard price right now with COVID and limited manufacturing on the chips and all kinds of delays on shipping and things around the world. So this is kind of the standard price that we're seeing this year. But I feel like for Geprc RC stuff, $349 it's an okay price because you're getting something out of the box. It's not super duper cheapy components. You're getting SpeedX branded Geprc RC motors, which I've used the SpeedX versions of these motors for years. A very, very nice motor, smooth and reliable. 4 bolts on the very bottom through these TPU bumpers, which is nice. And we've got a really thick arm on here for that Squash X, and they're replaced. You see this massive bottom plate right here with the extended long body. I call this the truck bed because you can fit a huge battery on these type of frames. We've got aircraft aluminum up front. We have a special TPU mount just underneath that camera mount where you have your capacitor in there, tucked in there, and your beeper on the other side. So full-size beeper on this. If you lose it out in the weeds somewhere or in the marsh, you can hear this thing beeping from like a quarter mile away. It's super loud. In the back, we also have a TPU mount for the diversity antennas for the air module, which is super cool. That's really nice. You don't get that on the standard Cadex Vistas. You only get one antenna coming off that. So I feel like this one has better penetration than the Cadex Vista, meaning going behind trees and things. And they also have it padded. So check this out. There's a bit of padding underneath the air module. And that's nice. So if you ever had a kind of a bottom out after a power loop and you smack down on the ground, you got some padding there underneath your expensive DJI DVR and VTX. That's really cool. We have a USB-C right here just above the 50 amp speed controller, and a little push button there for the boot button, and really nice soldering all the way around. You have extra UARTs as well. This one has up to 6 UARTs. We have around a 3mm 3K carbon fiber top plate, and standard size motor nuts, and an XT60 in the back. And overall, you know, I was actually contacted by Geprc a few days ago over the weekend, and they're like, hey, can you give us any feedback about our Mark 5? And you know what I said? Make a Mark 6, because the Mark 5 is fantastic. I don't have a lot of problems with this, so I think that that they're really onto something here with the Mark 5. This is a really nice update, and I'll put some links down below if you guys want to grab this one, because this one is definitely going to be kind of a flagship model for a 5-inch release from Geprc. If you're thinking of the Nazgul5 versus this one, you ask me which one should I get, because I know you guys are going to ask. I'm going to give you my opinion. My opinion is grab the Mark 5 over the Nazgul5. The Evoke, I think also the Evoke version is the V2 Nazgul5 Evoke. That one is competing with this one, but you have a little more options with this one. So you don't have the fancy LEDs down the side and the side plate, but that's going to keep everything cooler here as well. So there is an advantage to having an open case design on the side of the quad. So take that with a grain of salt. It's just my opinion. And also multiple camera mounts come with this one, so that's pretty cool. If you pay $500, you expect some extras, and Geprc gives you a giant bag of extras, bolts, and all kinds of camera attachments. So I think that's a pretty good value for what you get, and you get great components on board. But thanks again for watching my reviews, guys. Try this one out for freestyle or cinema, and start out with the 6S 1050 battery. You get 5 minutes with this one on freestyle, which is great. It's a great flight time for a freestyle flight. And if you're flying long range or medium range, mountain surfing, things like that, and you're toting a GoPro, use the 6S 1400. I'll put links for both of those style batteries down below. Tattoo R-Line is my battery of choice right now. So take care, guys, and I will see you on tomorrow's review. We're going to have reviews all week long, so stay tuned, and stay tuned for the podcast as well. Everything FPV, Friday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Sorry I didn't see you guys last week. I had a cold, and the guys decided not to come because, hey, it's COVID times. Who knows what's going on out there? So better be safe than sorry. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you on the next one.